Hey geometry students, Kim Breeden at Minnesota Online High School. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to proofs. Now you might be wondering, what are proofs and why are so many geometry kids afraid of them? A proof means that you're going to explain why something is true. It's very step by step, very ordered and logical. And the key thing is you must give a reason for everything you think is true. So this is really kind of like a puzzle, and it's using your logic and your critical thinking skills. In geometry, we'll write proofs quite a bit. Often we're going to write our proofs in two columns. We'll typically make them as a table. Now in the left column, we're going to list things like equal parts or statements that we know are true. The right column tells us why. We're going to use geometry vocabulary. Often, it's easiest for students if they write out a sentence, literally explaining what they mean. When we start a proof, we're always going to start by listing the given information. Okay? It's kind of like you're told something to start the puzzle. We can't debate that. We simply know it's true because they told us it's true. Okay? It might seem too easy, but the first step, you should definitely always get correct. And then another tip, don't assume things just by looking at the picture. There are some types of angle pairs that we've defined that you know what they look like, but we can't assume that things are the same size or that a point is the midpoint. We have to know for sure based on what we've been given or the vocab we already know. Before we get into some actual examples, I want to go through some common statements and potential reasons. So again, remember, you're always going to start a proof by writing down some given information. Okay? They will tell us something to start. We're going to copy that information down on the left and then write given in our top right. It's always true. Now from there, we're going to try to figure things out based on what they told us. In the left, we'll often list equal parts. So for example, we might list a pair of equal angles. But we need to know for sure that those angles are equal. Some reasons we might know that would be that vertical angles are equal, an angle bisector creates two equal angles, or using the transitive property. We might also list specific parts, segments that are equal. Similarly, we would have to explain them, like a midpoint creates two equal segments. The segment bisector creates two equal segments. Or maybe the segment bisector goes through the midpoint. And again, transitive. A tip to make proofs easier are to know your vocabulary. You might want to go back and even take some notes on some of the terms we've used so far. It can be helpful to have a single list that you look back on. I think the best way to learn how to do proofs is to do them, or to look at examples of what other proofs have been solved. These proofs are going to look kind of repetitive. Right now, we don't know a whole lot of different terms, so we're going to use a lot of these things over and over again. Okay, so let's look at our first proofs. We are given that angle 2 is equal to angle 3. Now, one other tip, you might want to draw this down on your own paper and then mark pieces that are equal. So we mark equal angles by putting a little curve in each angle. And what I want to prove is that angle 1 is equal to angle 3. Let's get started. Remember, first thing we're going to do is copy down that given information. They told us that angle 2 is equal to angle 3. I write that down always as my first statement. So angle 2 equals angle 3, given. Now we want to see if there's anything we can figure out from that given. If there's a vocab word, ask yourself what it means. Here we have no vocabulary. Okay, so the given might not be super helpful. Then let's look at the picture. And let's see if there's anything we can figure out from the picture. Now remember, we can't assume things based only on how it looks. However, we do know something about types of angles that are made by intersecting lines. And I notice that I have some spots where lines intersect. I'm noticing particularly that I have lines that are intersecting over there. Okay, when two lines intersect, think about what kind of angles are formed. Okay, they're vertical angles. Maybe ask yourself, what's true about vertical angles? Okay, vertical angles are equal. Hopefully you remember that. In our left column, we want a specific statement. So list the two angles that are equal. Know that angle 1 will equal angle 2. I have to give a reason. Now the reason has to do with vertical angles. Ask yourself what's true? Well, vertical angles are equal. And I would honestly write that out as a sentence as your reason. You might want to mark this on your picture, doing the same type of curved line in each of those angles. So I'm going to mark that angle 1 is equal to angle 2. Oh, and as I do that, I realize that angle 2 already had some marks in it. Remember, angle 2 was equal to angle 3. I can look back at what I've written down and realize, oh, angle 2 is equal to both of those. At this point, you might remember your property from one of the last assignments, the transitive property. The transitive property says that if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A and C are equal. Or if you want to think about it as an example with your age, you might say that Tegan is the same age as Bella and Bella is the same age as Eva. That means Tegan is the same age as Eva. That is the transitive property. So we are able to prove that angle 1 is equal to angle 3. And our reason is the transitive property. Again, early on in geometry, we're going to use the transitive property quite a bit. So if you look and you find out that you have a pair of objects that are equal to two other things, those other things are also equal. Now we want to verify, are we actually done? Yeah, they wanted us to prove that angle 1 was equal to angle 3. So we are done when what it says in the proof is what you've written in the last statement, and you have a reason to explain it. Another one. Here we are given that TR bisects JK and that TS equals JM. We want to prove that TS equals MK. Okay, let's start our proof. Hopefully you remember, we always write down the given information, and our reason is simply the word given. So I'm going to pause and type that down. So we've simply listed what they told us is true. Now we want to use that given, and I see a geometry vocab word, bisects. Take a moment to think about what bisect means. We've talked about segment bisectors and angle bisectors. Well, here we're bisecting JK. JK is a segment. Bisect means we cut it in half. Let's look at the picture and see what we can figure out. Okay, I highlighted TR. TR is bisecting JK. Okay, bisect means that it splits it into two equal parts. So that must mean that segment JM is going to be equal to segment MK. I'm going to type that down as my statement. Now let's write our reason. Not everybody's reason is going to be exactly the same, but everybody's reason should involve the word bisector. So in your own words, what does a bisector do? Since the segment bisector goes through the midpoint, I know that it creates two equal segments. Okay, I've used part of the given. I didn't use the second part of the given. The given also told me that TS is equal to JM. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark that. So I'm using a double line to mark TS, and that's going to be equal to JM. Now, just like last time, I notice that JM has two markings on it. JM, we were given was equal to TS, and then we figured out that JM was equal to MK. When a single item is equal to two different things, the other parts are going to be equal. That means I am ready to jump to what I'm trying to prove. I now know that TS is equal to MK. And just like in our last problem, this is the transitive property. Now on your worksheet, I have tried to give you some help. I started by writing down all the statements, and then for the reasons, I also gave you some choices. So if you are using Microsoft Word, you should be able to click here and see some multiple choice items. Okay, if you can't see them, you're just going to have to type the answer without giving choices. And also, I gave you hints. So if you're stuck, go ahead and go over to this blue box, and you can remove the blue boxes. Try to just remove one at a time and see what hints you need. In case you're not able to get those blue boxes to move, I'm going to take them all off so you can come back to the video and look at them if you need to. Okay, this is our hints for number 1. I'm going to do the same thing for number 2. So again, those are the hints for number 2. Try to go through and not use them until you need them. Hints shown for number 3. And finally, our hints for number 4. Proofs take some time and practice, but you can get it. Make sure you ask lots of questions, and feel free to use your resources like your books or re-looking at old vocab.